Welcome back to Axis Anime. My name is Henshin Ikeda, and I'll be doing a walkthrough review of Naruto Shippuden episode 328. If you remember from last episode, we enter another pointless flashback about both the Nine Tails and the Naruto's past. No surprise there. But within this flashback, after we get to see the Nine Tails being sealed up yet again, he's asking the big question to Naruto. What are you? And again, that's where the episode ends. And on my final thought rating at the end of the clip, so stay tuned. But let's dive right on in. So we open up this episode with the Nine Tails and Naruto, and we find out the Nine Tails is telling Naruto about the hatred which will follow him due to the casualties of war and whatnot. Yeah, Naruto doesn't take this news lightly. He's now talking down to the Nine Tails. And I love it. I mean, yes, he's being a little cocky, a little naive, a little arrogant. But hey, I love it, so deal with it. So moving on past that, we enter a little cutscene with Sakura. Now Sakura is preparing to leave camp since everything is now slowed down, but we don't know where she's going to. That's the problem. We finally get to see a little more of Sakura, and we don't know where the fuck she's heading to. She's helping Naruto out. That's the best thing I got from that little cutscene. So Sakura possibly is leaving camp just so she can help Naruto out. That's what I got from that little cutscene. Anyways, let's talk about Toby for a change, okay? Because I'm interested to know where Toby is at. So Toby finds out the true location of Naruto. Because if you remember correctly, Naruto is inside the Four Tails' belly. Technically because the Four Tails ate him up. So this is definitely interesting. So Toby locates Naruto's real location in the Four Tails, and he pulls the Four Tails in with his chakra chains. So we're seeing a little bit of action, and I love where it's going. However, Naruto, all of a sudden, you see all these clones inside of the Four Tails build up. So these are Naruto's clones, and they're inside of the Four Tails, and they're multiplying, and eventually the Four Tails throws up all of the Naruto clones. I see where Naruto was going with this little plan, but dear God, I was eating dinner, and I'm watching this fucking character throw up, like, more of Naruto clones. I'm like, come on. I can see the genius behind the plan. I was just eating and I didn't give a fuck. I mean, yes, food for thought, Naruto. Next time you're going to do that, give me a heads up, okay? Thank you. But anyways, Naruto manages to get free of the Four Tails and kind of shocks Toby just a little bit. It's like, wait a minute, he can do that? Maybe this kid isn't that dumb. At least that's what I presume what was going through his mind at the time. Now we enter another pointless flashback with Naruto and the Four Tails, because we kind of skipped over this, I guess. So we enter this flashback about Naruto and the Four Tails, and the Four Tails is actually telling Naruto about what's located at the base of his neck. So in a way, the Four Tails is telling Naruto about his weakness. You know, like what kind of weakness he has thanks to Toby, because Toby has this grasp or this hold on all the Jinkai users, and with the Four Tails, his weakness is the rod that's located at the base of his neck. So now the Four Tails has now told Naruto the truth about his weakness. So he feels a little more comfortable, a little more closer to Naruto. He trusts him just a little bit to tell him his real weakness. And that was nice of him, but you didn't have to do a flashback about it. I wanted to be surprised. You just took the fun out of the funness, okay? Thank you, Four Tails. You ruined my day. No, I'm just being an asshole, but still, within this little flashback, we get to see the Four Tails telling Naruto what is located at the base of his neck, which is the rod that Naruto was generally looking for to begin with. And, you know, this is definitely worth mentioning. However, it's still being controlled by Toby's chakra chains. So, just food for thought. Yet again, if you're going to tell someone your weakness, even though with good intentions, maybe you should have did that a little faster, a little more up front. Maybe that's just me, but I'm done rambling. Let's move on. So Naruto is now looking for the rod, which the Four Tails has now told him the location of. And guess what? He finds the rod, but Toby catches him. So he finally finds the rod, but Toby steps in and catches him. Okay, everyone has the worst timing in this episode, just putting that out there, but let's move on past that to another pointless flashback. So in this pointless flashback, it has a lot to do with Naruto and his past and how he pushed himself to evolve as a ninja and what have you. It was very heartful, very warming, but I did not want to see that. Come on! We finally get to see Toby catching Naruto, and we're going to enter another pointless flashback? Okay, as a fan, I'm very disappointed. Very, very disappointed. But as a Naruto fan who likes to see the character evolve, I was very touched with the flashback. A lot of nostalgia built up, but who the fuck cares? Let's move on past that to the present, because I'm sick of all these pointless flashback moments. So now we're in the present, and guess what? Naruto has a clone of himself in the Four Tails. So while the Four Tails was throwing up all of Naruto's clones as well as the real Naruto, one of the Naruto clones stayed inside of the Four Tails. That was clever of him. So he had an extra extension of himself located inside of the Four Tails. So this is definitely worth mentioning, but it gets better. Naruto is tugging on the rod located at the base of the Four Tails' necks on the outside, while the other Naruto, the clone, is inside of the Four Tails, pushing the rod, toward the real Naruto, so they can have a better chance of ripping the rod out. Now we see the clone using Frog Slap, and he's inside the Four Tails, and again, this clone of Naruto is using Frog Slap. I've never seen that technique used before, but it seems kind of weak and pathetic, but enough to move the rod. Now, what about the real Naruto, the one that's located on the outside of the Four Tails, which is pulling on the rod? I know this is very confusing how I'm describing it, but the real Naruto, now he's not only pulling on the rod, he's in Sage mode. Yeah, so he's in Sage mode and he's pulling on the rod, while the other clone is using Frog Slap. And this is getting really intense in my opinion, because you're wondering when is he actually going to pull this toothpick out of the Four Tails. And toward the end of the episode, we find out the Nine Tails, known as Kurama, is cheering Naruto on, kind of. And that's where the episode ends. As for my final thoughts, I've got a lot of mixed emotions about this one episode, because it really didn't go anywhere other than flashback by flashback by flashback. So we get to see an interesting turn of events where Naruto comes up with this amazing plan to get free of the Four Tails, and at the same time he has a second plan to keep one of himself, not himself, but he has a plan to keep a clone of himself inside of the Four Tails for safekeeping so he can get the rod out later on. I don't think Toby ever saw this coming, because he doesn't really think, Naruto is that strong, but that was his biggest mistake. And again, that is it for my final thoughts. I'm not going to do anything beyond that because I don't want to. I don't have time to. So, what's my final rating? 2.5 out of 5. I'm giving this a 2.5 out of 5, mostly because there wasn't a lot of fight scenes in my opinion. Bear with me. This was about flashbacks. This was about creating a plan, watching this plan in motion, because Naruto, he had a plan. Multiply himself clone-wise, leave a piece of himself inside the Four Tails, and when the time came, he was going to locate, the rod and push it out while he's pulling on the outside. Makes sense. So again, final rating, 2.5 out of 5. And that is it for my walkthrough and review of Naruto Shippuden episode 328. Definitely comment down below, let me know, thumbs up, thumbs down, definitely subscribe, check me out on Twitter, and follow me if you like. Let me know what you thought of this episode, and let me know what you think's going to happen in the next episode that's coming out. But again, guys, that's it for now. I gotta hit the bricks and I gotta go, and before I go, I gotta say it, and I always say it. You can't stop the access, but you can watch the feed. I'll see you later, guys.